Hello students, welcome to the channel. We have been working on the April 2021 SAT QAS in the past few videos. I've already uploaded the writing, no calculator and calculator section solutions. Today we begin the solutions to the reading section. I'll be dealing with the 5 passages one by one. So today we begin with passage 1, the literature passage. This passage is adapted from The Fortunes by Peter Ho Davies. The passage is set in 1935. Anna, an actress, is working with Newsreel, a photographer, to create a short documentary film. Anna speaks Cantonese with an American accent, her father has always said, but no Mandarin or Shanghainese. Now she requires an interpreter to tell her hosts how delighted she is to visit her homeland. It's just as well the newsreel is silent, she thinks, the announcer's voiceover to be added later. Besides, didn't she do some of her best work in silent pictures? So this sets up the introduction to the passage where we know that there is an actress, Anna, who is in China. She speaks Cantonese, but she does not speak other languages in China, other languages from China, like Mandarin or Shanghainese. And so she requires an interpreter to tell her host that she's delighted to be in China. And the announcer's voiceover is to be added later. So obviously there is some filming going on, and that has to do with the documentary that she's making. Now, newsreel is a person, a photographer. So the newsreel with the capital N is the person, the photographer who is helping Anna create the documentary. Newsreel films her at Yew Gardens, framed by a moon gate. He films her on the Nanking Road, shopping and turning heads. In the Sincere department store, she's delighted to learn that the onomatopic Chinese word for the pneumatic tube system is bung. He films her on the bunt, pointing out junks, and the passage tells us that the junks are flat-bottomed boats. Um, Pointing out junks, rubbing the paw of the bronze lion outside the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank for luck. There are more cars than she expected, though she must try a rickshaw, more telephones, more streetlights. Overhead, the telegraph lines make a net against the sky. So this describes this urban landscape that Anna is traversing, and newsreel with her. The sights and sounds of where she is, right? The bund, the bund where newsreel shows her those boats. They go to the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, which I think should be HSBC, but perhaps it's some other bank. And so the fact that there are more cars and that there are telegraph lines, all of this paints an urban landscape for the reader. A pair of trams cross in front of her, parting like curtains. She marvels blithely at the modernity. Why, it reminds me of Berlin. I was expecting old Cathay, but it looks nothing like Grauman's theater. And um, so old Cathay is another term for China, right? So she was expecting some other China, perhaps a China that's not as modern as the one that she has come across. And it reminds her of Berlin. Mostly, though, there are more Chinese than she ever imagined. Compradors in tank jackets, black and white armors, monks in their yellow robes, crowding everywhere, more than she's ever seen. And this she keeps to herself. Secretly, she feels like an extra again, is glad of her chic Western wardrobe, Chanel suits for helping her stand out. So this paragraph kind of brings out this other change that Anna notices, the fact that China's population has exploded, and she sees many more Chinese than she expected. And she's kind of glad that she can stand out in this large crowd because of the way she's dressed, and that is something that she notices, but she keeps to herself. The Mayfair Mannequin Academy of New York named her the world's best dressed woman in 1934. Not bad for a laundryman's daughter, she wrote to her father at the time, but he didn't reply. She finds herself waiting for newsreel to say action, pausing at the edge of the frame, her weight tipped forward, but catching herself. They laugh when she explains it to him, yet she still wants him to tell her what to do. Was that good? She asks after a take, and he says, sure. She feels naked without stage makeup, lighting. She asks to redo a moment when she bumps into someone. If you like, she repeats a particular gesture, uh, a little turn of the wrist as if she's presenting the scene around her, practicing between takes and then repeating to make sure he captures it until he looks up and over the camera and asks, what are you doing? So, this paragraph kind of brings out what Anna is trying to capture in her documentary. I think what she's trying to capture is this new landscape that she's in, this new China, this more modern, more populated China that she's in. And she, there is a sense of, I wouldn't say miscommunication, but she, I think, is a little more spontaneous than newsreel would prefer because she kind of, just likes to uh, repeat a particular action that she has had on the street, and newsreel is not sure that he follows what exactly she's doing. So this kind of brings out that some, I wouldn't call it tension, but yeah, something like that. Okay. Newsreel's IMO camera runs for 20 seconds, fully wound, and she begins pacing her movements to his rhythms from the taxi to the hotel lobby, 20 seconds. Greeting a fan, 20 seconds. Admiring a bolt of silk, 20 seconds, and then it's time to change the reel. So this describes the time limit for which the reel runs, and Anna gets used to kind of capturing whatever she wants in that time period. She feels as if he's winding her up like a tin toy. Finally, she leans on a rail overlooking the river, waiting for him, and when he raises up, she lifts her own uh, Leica. I don't know if it's Leica or Lysa, so I'm just going to say Leica. Her own Leica to take a picture of him. You look like a tourist, he tells her, and she frowns. On the Wangpu, the sails of junks unfurl like fans, raised as if in modesty to hide them from gaze. So here they are at the harbor. They are next to the river. And this is, uh, at this point, she herself takes a picture of newsreel, right? The tables are turned somewhat because it is she now who is taking a picture of newsreel. And we also hear about the scene, what is happening in the background, right? She outfits herself with a new wardrobe. She sheds her Western dresses and suits for sleek kipao. The milky-eyed tailor who measures her wraps a knotted string around her waist and hips. She used to work as a seamstress at her father's laundry when she was a child, she says, and he nods when someone translates. Afterwards, she shows off her new gowns for the camera. Going native, she tells Newsreel, he touches a finger to the knot of his bow tie as if it were a button. She blends in better, at least until people address her in Mandarin. She can't recall the last time she felt invisible like this, but she fears getting lost in the crowd. She relies on newsreel to pick her out, on the camera to make her stand out. In later years, she'll wear those dresses in movies and charge the studios an extra fee to rent her wardrobe. Okay, so towards the end, we learn that she begins to kind of trade her Western dresses for more local dresses, Chinese style dresses. And she actually visits a tailor who kind of makes a few dresses for her. And this this is surprising because one of the reasons that she did not want to do that was she felt she would be lost in the crowd, and she still feels so, but she gets better at it, right? And there is Newsreel, obviously, who captures her, who tries, she tries to get him to kind of, make her stand up. So this is, I think, if you had to kind of speak about this passage, summarize this passage, it's about an actress who lives in the West but is visiting China for a documentary, and it's about how she comes to perceive this new China, the China that's quite different from the China that she remembers, and and how she kind of begins to adjust to it, how she kind of begins to change herself, or how she dresses, etc., to adjust to it. Okay, so let's look at the first question. Which choice best describes what happens in the passage? The character's visit to her native country inspires her to investigate her ancestral history. A character considers how she has had to comply with expectations in her career as an actress. A character compares the customs of one country to those of another country. And a character's work on a project causes her to reflect on her place in a particular culture. So I think I like D. D is something that I instantly like, because if you look at option A, there's no mention of Anna investigating her ancestral history. It's not like she's in China to kind of understand where she comes from and to look back at the generations that went before her. So A is out. A character considers how she has had to comply with with expectations in her career as an actress. That is also not the point, because yes, she's an actress. Yes, there is talk of this shooting that's going on, but the main focus of the passage is not on her acting or her documentary. The main focus is what she notices about China and how that changes her. A character compares the customs of one country to those of another. Again, that's not what's happening. There's no comparison here. But yes, she does reflect on her place in China, on how China has changed and how she would have to kind of become more Chinese if she wants to blend in. So that's a good answer. Which choice best supports the idea that Anna's ability to speak Cantonese does not help her communicate with the people she meets in China? Okay, so let's first get the line numbers correct. Anna to Homeland, so that's line 1 to 3. So I'll just write this here, 1, 2, 3, and it's two pictures, so that's 3 to 5. 3 to 5. Okay. So the fact that she speaks Cantonese, but it does not help her communicate. So I think that's given in the first uh, few lines. Anna speaks Cantonese with an American accent, but no Mandarin, and she therefore requires an interpreter. So it's very clearly option A, because she needs an interpreter. It's just as well the newsreel is silent, the announcer's voiceover to be added later. So that is not really relevant to how she's not able to communicate, right? So I'm not even looking at option C and D, because A is such a strong, good answer. Based on the passage, which choice best describes Anna's initial reaction to China? She's baffled because she is not familiar with the local customs. She's intimidated by its expansiveness and visits only the most popular tourist destinations. She's overcome with admiration for the fashion she sees there. She's surprised because it is not antiquated as she had imagined it to be. So I like D. I like D because there is this point where she says, why? It reminds me of Berlin. I was expecting old Cathay, but it looks nothing like Grauman's theater. So she marvels blithely. Blithely is like without caution, she's very taken in by China's modernity. So she's surprised that it is not as antiquated, as ancient, as old as she had imagined it to be. And I would go with lines 15 to 17, right? Because that's what is where she's saying that, she thought that it would be old, it would be antiquated, but it's not. So there's definitely this sense that, she's surprised by that. I don't think that she's not familiar with the local customs. I don't think that's relevant because that's not something that comes up. Um, she, I wouldn't say she's intimidated. I would say that she does feel that there are too many people. So I don't think that is captured in this option. And the fashion part is not true because I don't think she has admiration for the fashion. She comes to wear that fashion. She comes to accept that fashion because she wants to blend it. Okay. In lines 22 and lines 55, this phrase stand out primarily serves to. So, so it's here. She's glad that her chic Western wardrobe, Chanel suits help her stand out. So um, that's the first time we come across this. And then in line 55 as well. She relies on newsreel to pick her out on the camera to make her stand out. So it before we go to the options, I think she wants to kind of, the idea that she's in a documentary and she wants to be the subject of the documentary, right? That is why it is important for her to look different from the crowd. Highlight Anna's active participation in the newsreel and her later disregard for it. Portray Anna as materialistic and her visit to China as an attempt to garner more fame. Demonstrate that Anna is unable to successfully assimilate into Chinese culture. Underscore the importance Anna places on feeling distinctive. So I think it's D, right? Because it is kind of, maybe it has to do with the documentary, or maybe it has to do with her own, her how she sees herself, her own place in Chinese society, that she feels the need to be distinctive, right? So it kind of underscores that, it kind of brings that out. I don't think this has anything to do with her participation in the documentary and disregard, right? There's no disregard for the documentary, for the newsreel. It does not portray her as materialistic, right? That's not the point. The point is that she wants to be different. She wants to look different. She wants to stand out, as the Bassett says. And it's not about assimilating into Chinese culture. So D is the best answer. In context, the fifth paragraph, lines 23 to 25, primarily serves to. So this one, this little paragraph here. The Mayfair Mannequin Academy of New York named her the world's best dressed woman. Not bad for a laundryman's daughter, she wrote to her father, but he didn't reply. So this, actually, we don't hear a lot about her father, except that, her father was a laundryman and she had learned some skills of the trade as a child, right? We know that. But the fact that he didn't reply, that could indicate that maybe there was some tension between them. Maybe, there was a communication hiatus. So something was going on. So reveal that Anna and her father have not spoken in many years. Introduce a contrast between Anna's current success and her modest upbringing. Emphasize that Anna has received numerous accolades. Provide details about the trajectory of Anna's career. So I think B, right? Because this is the first time where we kind of learn about her past. And this is brought up again later when she is at the tailor and she says that, she did the work of a seamstress as a child at her father's shop. So this introduces a contrast between her current success, the fact that she's considered a fashion icon and she makes magazines covers, and her rather modest upbringing as the daughter of a laundryman. Um, we don't know that she and her father have not spoken for many years. We only know that he didn't reply to this particular news. The emphasis is not on her receiving accolades. That's not the point. And it's also not on describing the trajectory of her career. In context, what is the primary significance of Anna's act of taking a photograph of newsreel? Okay, so uh, yeah, she leans on a rail overlooking the river, waiting for him, and when he raises up, she lifts her own Leica to take a picture of him. And this comes right after the line where it says she feels as if he's winding her up like a tin toy, right? So maybe she wants to take a little more control because so far she's the subject of the documentary, and it's like, she has to do these 20-second actions because that's how much the newsreel lasts. But now she gets up and she gets a picture of newsreel. Yeah, so I think there is some sort of getting control, right? So let's look at the options. A response to this act propels Anna to reassess how she's presenting herself to others. A dismissal of this act causes her to realize that she has less autonomy than she had previously assumed. And indifference towards this act forces Anna to reconsider how she's engaging with the filming process. And acceptance of this act allows Anna to become more confident in her interactions with newsreel. So the reaction, you look like a tourist, and he tells her, and she frowns. She frowns, right? So I don't think newsreel accepts it. So I don't like D. I don't think he's indifferent. Uh, yeah, it could be either. I don't think it's about how she's presenting herself to others, right? That's not. Is it that? Because you look like a tourist. And she frowns. Yeah, I think it's A. I think A is a good answer because if the way she picks up a camera and she tries to take a picture of newsreel, and the fact that he says that you look like a tourist, and it makes her realize that even though she's Chinese, she perhaps has not blended enough, right, with her Western clothes and uh, you know her desire to stay away, to stand apart. She hasn't blended enough. So I think this kind of conversation between them makes her reassess how she presents herself, and this is then followed by the fact that she gets a new wardrobe. She gets more Chinese dresses, right? So I think A uh, is good. I think B is somewhat vague, right? There's no mention of autonomy, so that's not relevant here. As used in line 53, recall most nearly means uh, she blends in better, at least until people address her in Mandarin. She can't recall the last time she felt invisible like this. She can't remember. That's a good word. She can't remember, right? The last. It's not renew, it's not revive, and it's not reinstate. Reinstate is to put something or someone back in position. So it's C. According to the passage, dressing in Chinese attire causes Anna to feel that she's more anonymous, become more comfortable with her surroundings, have more appreciation for her father's work, approach her everyday activities with more enthusiasm. So I think it's A, right? Because it says here that she can't recall the last time she felt invisible like this. She fears getting lost in the crowd, right? So she feels anonymous. She's more anonymous, and that's kind of scary for her. She is not more comfortable. In fact, she fears getting lost, and it's got nothing to do with her father's work or approaching activities with more enthusiasm. The passage indicates that the items Anna purchases in China later serve her as a means for financial gain, a symbol of her early career, emblems of a lost culture, nostalgic reminders of her travels. So I think A, right? Because she'll wear those dresses in movies and charge the studios an extra fee to rent her wardrobe. So it's just the fact that, she is able to use these items to make some money later on. It's not, we don't know if it's a symbol of her early career. There's no mention of that. It's not, we don't know if it's emblematic of a lost culture. The passage doesn't tell us any of these. These are really heavy options, right? Really heavy, meaningful options, and the passage doesn't support them. And similarly, nostalgic reminders. So A is a good answer. Okay, so that was the literature passage. Let's grade this. DADBD, DADBD. Okay, and sixth is, I just want to look up till 10, so I'm just going to kind of keep it till here. BACAA. BACAA. Okay, great. So we got all correct. Right, so that was the literature passage of the April 2021 SAT reading section. Hope you found this useful. I'll be uploading the rest of the 4 passages one by one, so come back and check those out. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.